What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So just a quick reminder, later on today, Summer Games Fest will be taking place, and unfortunately, I won't be available to stream it. I will be streaming the Xbox Games Showcase this Sunday, and apparently a Nintendo Direct next week. At least that's according to Reddit, where this leak was posted up online, and we're going to go over that odd set of circumstances here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Mario Strikers Battle League, as reviews did go live yesterday, and we're going to be talking about some potentially bad news when it comes to PlayStation's big 2022 release. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. We're here every weekday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, rounding up all of the big gaming news so you can work to keep up to date with everything. So make sure you also subscribe if you're new here. And we're going to start today with Fire Emblem Three Hopes. That's out later on this month, but it looks like you can try it a bit early with a demo that is now live on the eShop. We can see this posted up by Nintendo saying the Ashen Wolves make their way into Fire Emblem Warriors Three Hopes. Download the free demo for Fire Emblem Warriors Three Hopes, available now on Nintendo Switch eShop. Your progress carries over to the full game once purchased, releasing on June 24th. I like these kind of demos where basically you just start the game and you decide if you like it, and then if you do, you buy it, your progress carries over. Square's been doing that quite a bit, actually, with a lot of their RPGs on the Switch, for example. The thing with Fire Emblem, though, and the Warrior series is I like to see something different from the Warrior series as opposed to another Fire Emblem game. Like, it's great, obviously, for Fire Emblem fans because it plays into the lore really well, and that's one of the reasons Age of Calamity was pretty interesting, because it played into the whole Zelda lore, right? But I kind of want something out of left field for the next one, like F-Zero Warriors. Just something weird that doesn't sound like it would work, but then they make it work. It's just an idea there. Otherwise, though, go check out the demo. It's now live. Also, one mode that was missing from Halo Infinite at launch that was pretty disappointing was co-op. Well, it does look like we're working towards a release for co-op into Halo Infinite. And in fact, they'll be testing it next month. We can see this over on the Halo account saying, with Halo Infinite Campaign Network co-op arriving later this year, we're planning to flight it to Halo Insiders in July. Register and make sure your Halo Insider profile is up to date for a chance to participate. I just want to point out once again, this is network co-op. They're not necessarily talking about split screen co-op on the same system. That's still a pretty big disappointment that that's not there, and probably won't be available later on this year either. But I guess co-op, because it's in this open world setup, is more difficult to implement here, and they're going to be flighting it next month to see if people just break it. That's the best way to do it, right? Beta test it and see what happens. So if you're curious about trying out co-op, you can sign up for the Insiders program, and there's like a little app you get on your Xbox that'll allow you to get in. Otherwise, though, hopefully everything goes smoothly. They work out all the bugs, and we can work towards a release for co-op in some capacity for Halo Infinite later this year. Oh, and we do know that Capcom is going to be holding a showcase next week, that being on the 13th, but it is mostly going to be around games that have already been announced. They're very transparent about that, but Capcom actually has quite a few games that have been announced that we don't know much about. In fact, some we've only seen CG trailers for, but it does look like the big title will be there, that being Resident Evil 4 Remake. We can see this over on the Resident Evil account. Prepare for a fresh new look at Resident Evil 4 in the Capcom Showcase live stream. Again, that's 3 p.m. Pacific. That'd be 6 p.m. Eastern Time next week on the 13th. And what I would like to see for Resident Evil 4 is them just play through kind of the opening bit of it, because just in like those quick clips that they had for the trailer, they showed it being at nighttime, whereas before it was during the day, and this kind of plays into the idea of it being a creepier, darker setting. Like literally, again, it's at night. So you kind of have that more familiar scene with Leon going up to the cabin, and like that would be really cool to show off the lighting effects and the new visuals. So I am very excited to see more about Resident Evil 4 Remake next week. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with this whole Nintendo Direct leak that hit Reddit yesterday, and this blew up online very, very quickly because it's such a strange thing to happen, but I mean, at least it's pointing towards some sort of shadow drop next week, and we can see this posted up. And the thing with Reddit, or really anywhere online in these web pages, even if you try to delete it, it'll be archived, snapshots will happen. In this case, we just need to see the post, which Archive does have it up here. The title of Nintendo Direct drops next Wednesday via Switch developer email. It's from Sam Carr saying, I received an email from a developer recently. I'm a content creator, asking me if I was interested in the code for a game that launches next week on Switch, which I personally wasn't, but the game will be exciting for some action fans. Now, they say usually when this happens, the publisher will ask me to sign an NDA before sharing any info at all. Apparently that didn't happen here. That's not necessarily correct. Sometimes they'll just tell you in the email what it is, date, time, all these things, and they don't have you sign something. There's this unwritten rule or understanding where you don't go, ooh, I should post that on Reddit now. And it sounds like this person was trying to line stuff up and put two and two together. Like, wow, I'm signing a lot of embargoes for next week outside of just this one that is just telling me the title and the date and the time. There must be something happening next week. Could there be a Nintendo Direct? At least that's the conclusion they've come to. Then they went a bit further, and for some reason they clipped and then posted the email that they got from this publisher developer, and they decided to redact the information by using, I guess, the brush on your iPhone or computer where you just kind of use like a black brush and just kind of scribble over everything. Bad idea. Good life lesson here for the social media era that we're in right now. People can see through that by playing around with the contrast and the brightness, and people did that. And we know exactly which game it is and, well, when that embargo is up. This being next week on the 15th. It's for a game called Neon White. And when that got out there, people were like, oh, cool. What's that? It's a game that was unveiled during a Nintendo Direct, and it's like that first-person runner action style game where it has an entire card system. And obviously a bit of advice for people who are trying to come up in the gaming space when it comes to making content or writing for websites, anything like that. Not a good idea to post this stuff up online, but I will say Neon White has played into this pretty well. If you look at their Twitter account, they're all smiley faces. The reason for that, I assume, is because people are talking about Neon White when they normally wouldn't be at this time. Again, there are a lot of people who just weren't aware of it, but this entire Nintendo Direct leak seems to center around the idea that Neon White is coming out next week in what would probably be a shadow drop during a Nintendo Direct. But I should mention, in that email, or any of the documents and stuff that were posted up, there's never a Nintendo Direct actually mentioned. So what could just be happening is that Neon White's gonna announce maybe on Monday, next week, that their game comes out on Wednesday, and that's kinda it. I mean, there's an assumption that there's a Direct next week either way. This is just, more backing to that, because Nintendo would typically have their Direct a couple days after Microsoft, for example, does their showcase on Sunday. Nintendo would go on like Tuesday, right? Could Nintendo do it on Wednesday? Yeah, there's no E3. Could they also do it later on in June? Yes, there's no E3. Could they do it in July? Yes, there's no E3. Basically, Nintendo can go at any time. And that would be kind of weird, wouldn't it? If we get to next week and we're like, all right, where's the Nintendo Direct? And there just isn't one. And then we go into July and then Nintendo announces it. Nintendo does like to throw curveballs at times, and while they typically will stick to tradition at this point in the year and have their June Direct, I wouldn't put it past them to maybe draw it out a bit and have something a bit different in mind this year. But I guess we'll find out here pretty soon, because if it's on Wednesday, they're probably going to announce the Direct today, maybe next Monday. I mean, realistically, they could announce it Tuesday and we would all show up Wednesday anyway. So we'll just have to keep an eye out on Nintendo's Twitter account to see if they're ready to announce it. Next up, let's talk about Mario Strikers Battle League. That's coming out tomorrow, and I'm excited for it because I am a big Mario Strikers fan. I still play the GameCube version to this day with the GameCube and the HDMI adapter, and it is still an absolute blast. But I had some concerns around Mario Strikers Battle League, and it appears they were correct when it comes to lacking content and a few other things, but we can see Metacritic here with a score of 75. This is on 52 critic reviews, and the split currently is 29 positive, 23 mixed. It did at least get a perfect score from Daily Star, but it has some review scores as low as like the 50s from Games Radar. And yes, a lot of these reviews are pointing to it having a lack of content, not necessarily the fun factor, because if you think about it, it seems like it'd be like the perfect party game. The controls, while they are a bit more complex than what I was used to with the GameCube version of Mario Strikers, they weren't too bad because it's just passing and shooting and tackling, and then you could play off of that with lob passes and super strikes and items and everything. But 8 people can play on a single Switch. I mean, that's a blast for a room full of friends. However, if you're playing by yourself, there's no campaign, there's no story, there's no career. It's just like a tournament bracket. basically just like the GameCube version that I still play. Which isn't bad when you're learning the game, because you will go against progressively more and more difficult AI opponents, but when you're done that, it's kind of like, oh, well, now what? Well, now you either find some friends to play with offline or you go online. And that's kind of what I was going to be grading, or at least judging Mario Strikers on overall, is how good the online play is. Basically, if there's a lot to do with the online side of things, I'll probably find my money's worth there pretty easily. My concern comes down to how seamless the online really is. How well does it work? And how easy is it for me to get 3 other people, like from the Spawncast, so a team of 4, together, and then we go online against other people in ranked or just kind of like social mode or anything there. Maybe you earn coins, you then use that to buy gear. A lot of questions for me when it comes to the online experience, because even the people who were reviewing this weren't able to necessarily like party up with a bunch of people and go online, since usually each place would get like 1 review code. But the biggest drawback here does appear to be the lack of content. I mean, there's 10 characters, and it looks like many of them are going to be part of this roadmap that they set up. And this is expected now for these sports titles. When we see it announced, we all question, okay, how much content is really going to be there at launch, and how much will there be a year or two? Like, would I be better off just waiting to buy the game? I mean, maybe. And then there's the idea of, well, Nintendo seems to like their physical media, but how much they really like it when a bunch of the content is going to be reliant on a server to send the information to you when you first pop the game in to update it. Either way, one thing's for sure, I will be checking this game out as soon as it releases tomorrow, and I'm sure we'll have some thoughts on the Spawncast, and maybe, I don't know, I'll make an entire video after I have a chance to play it online with a couple of the members of the podcast. Next up, let's talk about Sony's big release for 2022, that of course being God of War Ragnarok. We're basically placing this game around the holiday season, and it seems like Sony is really trying to get this game out there, but more and more concerns come up around its viability for releasing this year as we continue on through this year. I mean, it's June. Usually you'd see Sony release of their big title in September, maybe October at the latest. But here we are now in June. That'd be, 3 or 4 months from now. We have no release date for God of War. Well, now we see reports starting to pop up that God of War could be delayed into next year. Take this, for example, from Game Reactor, saying Sony will announce the delay of God of War Ragnarok to 2023. Although it seemed closer than imaginable based on his registration with rating agencies and other databases as close to September, God of War Ragnarok will finally hit physical and digital shelves on PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4 in 2023. The delay, which has yet to be made official by Sony, has been confirmed by various European sources to Game Reactor. Now, as this was going up, I noticed that over on Twitter, PlayStation Game Size, that will keep track of different things in the PlayStation database, whether it's file sizes or release dates that tend to leak out early here, noticed that God of War's placeholder date, which was September 30th, was shifted to December 31st. What this signifies is essentially God of War Ragnarok has been moved from Q3 to Q4. Now, to push back against that report, Jason Schreier did post up on Reset Era saying it's hard to definitely prove a negative, but someone who would know firsthand just told me they haven't heard anything about a slip to 2023, as did someone else who might know secondhand. So, I mean, it's still anybody's guess right now with God of War. One thing's for sure, though, it seems like Sony is going to be cutting it close here with God of War, one way or the other. The fact that it's moved to Q4 is already kind of strange for Sony with a big release like this, but it is following up, I mean, I think the best release they did on PlayStation 4, that being God of War 2018. That's a very difficult act to follow, and you want to make sure you get it right with God of War Ragnarok, the sequel to it. And unless it's part of Summer Game Fest later on today, I think most people are going to keep their eyes out and hope that Sony announces a state of play for God of War where they can show off the game a bit more and then hit us with a release date, hopefully in 2022. I'm still team 2022 in this case. I think God of War will be making it out for the holidays this year, but I'll admit, I'm getting a bit more concerned about that prediction, and I wouldn't be shocked now if they showed up one day on Twitter and said, hey, we need more time for this thing. I know we delayed it from last year into 2022, but we'll see you guys in 2023. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 with that special edition. It did go live yesterday, and Did you try to buy one of these? Because it was absolute mayhem. Nintendo announced that the store page was live and you could order it, and then their website basically just exploded. There was like this queue you could go in, it was a line, and the web page would basically refresh every couple of seconds in the background. Nintendo had it set up with Nintendo accounts in mind, and it was 2 per customer, but that didn't seem to make things any easier here as people were waiting in line for hours. And eventually Nintendo posted this up here over on Twitter. We apologize for any inconvenience that you may be experiencing while attempting to pre-order the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Special Edition. The My Nintendo store is experiencing a high volume of traffic, and we appreciate your patience while we look into the issue. Now, Xenoblade has become more and more popular since it released back on the Wii, but really, I think people are looking at this realizing, yeah, those special editions have gone up in price every single time. You look at Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Special Edition, like new with a damaged box I saw on eBay, it's like $500. Even some of their standard releases like Torna, that's over $100 if you have that sealed. That was just a basic release that wasn't even full price. So you have people who are just Xenoblade fans who would like to get the Special Edition, and then to be honest, you have resellers coming in looking at it like, oh, if I pick one of these up, I can flip it for 2, 3, even 4 times the amount. No sweat. So I'm hoping that people who are in line, have been waiting in line, we're able to get this special edition, because it is certainly one that will be resold over and over and over again, no problem, on eBay. And who knows, maybe Nintendo comes back and has another run of these, because it's already weird with the situation they're in. Remember, they moved the game from September to July, and it sounds like part of the special edition will be shipped out early, I guess the game, and then the rest of it will make its way out to customers later on. So it's a strange situation all the way around, and hopefully everyone who is waiting in queue, in line to get this special edition, were able to. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked the reviews are in, are you picking up Mario Strikers Battle League? 15% said yes, I'm picking it up ASAP. 36% said yes, but not till later on. And then 50% said no, I'm not interested, or just don't have a Switch. And you know what? The 36% of people who said probably not till later on, I think that makes a lot of sense, actually, just based on the limited amount of content they have available at launch. I mean, a year from now, the game may be $40 randomly on Amazon one day, and you buy it because Mario Golf has fallen to that price a couple of times, and you get one download when you first pop it in with an update, and boom, the character roster like doubles. Maybe they have some new fields. Who knows? They got a bunch of different modes as well with the online as they go along. So unless you're someone like me who has a lot of nostalgia for the GameCube version and a lot of enjoyment just in general for Mario Strikers, I kind of get why you'd wait. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Hart saying E3 could be successful, they just need to go back to the roots. Make it more about the games and not the spectacle. There is no need for Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft to be spending millions on large stages just to be big. Well, to be honest with Nintendo and Microsoft now, they just spend the money because it's all budget anyway, and it's all just falls under the marketing department. But overall with E3, I think you're right in the sense they have to go back to what made E3 so interesting and special, and that kind of has to do with them focusing less on it just being an event to draw people in through ticket sales. And when I hear the stories of people going, especially in the last couple of years when it was like a physical event before everything happened with the pandemic, it sounded like you paid money for a ticket, which was already expensive. You paid money for a hotel, which was very expensive. And you just go there and you wait in line 80% of the time to play a game for 15 to 20 minutes. And that was it. That was kind of, sure, there was a chance to network with people and stuff, but back in the day, you saw the stuff on TV or online when we eventually got the video streaming and all of this, and it was a trade show for publishers and developers to come together rather than try to sell tickets for a live event that wasn't that enjoyable in the first place. They got to go back to square one and rebuild, I think, for E3, so we'll see if they can pull it off next year. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here. Today was that very strange Nintendo Direct leak that happened over on Reddit. Do you think a Direct is scheduled for next week? Let me know about that. And then also, what about God of War Ragnarok? Does it make its 2022 release as it's been planned, or is it falling into 2023? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.